Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 12th Inner Fire interview. And today's guest who is on fire is Shaun Galanos, who's a dear friend of mine and who is a love coach and the host of the Love Drive podcast. He also is an online course creator where he teaches intimacy and communication tools for better relationships and more love. And today we're going to talk about getting your needs met. So without further ado, let's welcome Shaun to the screen. Hey, Shaun.
Hey there.
Thank you so much for being here, for having this conversation with me.
I'm happy to be here. I'm typing because I'm sharing this thing as you're doing.
All right, go ahead. Take your time. Share away.
I'm really happy to be here. I love talking about needs. I love talking about, right? Like having a conversation about what it looks like to ask for what you want in life. It's my belief that it's the best way to get what you want. Like, I really don't, I mean, this sounds like so obvious, but like, I really don't know a better way of getting what you want than by asking for it. So I'm a big proponent of just going out there and asking for it. And I'm grateful that you asked me to speak.
Yeah, that was my need. I need to have an exciting, like, vibrant human being like you who shows up in the world and really lights it up. And yeah, definitely a need of mine. And it's funny because when I was preparing for this, I sincerely asked myself, like, what is a need? What in its essence, like, what is a need? And I would love for you to answer that if you have an answer to that.
Well, what did you come up with?
Well, what I found that I liked, which was really simple, was on Wikipedia, and a need is something that is necessary for an organism to live a healthy life.
Yeah.
I was like, it makes it even more important to get our needs met, right?
I found the same definition as I'm doing the research for my Getting Your Needs Met course that starts tomorrow. I looked up, what's a need, what's a desire, what's a requirement, what's a deal breaker. And for me, it's the conversation around what our needs can be really heady. Can be really confusing to figure out, like, okay, what are needs that I can satisfy, what are needs that you can satisfy, how do I get my needs met, is this appropriate, is this reasonable, is this inappropriate? So it gets like really, really heady. But basically, if I were to boil it down, like, a need is something that takes care of you, that allows you to live a healthy, happy life. And the more needs we get that we can meet, and by finding a variety of ways of having those needs met, the more fulfilled we are. There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which can be flawed, but basically you're at the base. We're talking about physiological needs for water, food, air, and shelter, right? Once we have those, then we can move to some of the other needs, right? And there's a pyramid. And as you move up the pyramid, you end up having a more fulfilling, satisfying life, right? And in that pyramid, right in the middle, is the need for connection, the need for belonging, the need for love, the need for friends, for community, for relationships, right? And so some people feel really bad about really wanting to be in a relationship when in fact it's one of your primordial needs, right? It is what makes you human. Needs are part of what makes us humans.
Yes. And when our need is fulfilled, then the next step appears. We can keep growing, we can keep expanding, we can, if we have the relationship, then maybe after that we can focus on the community. And then maybe, it's not always so linear, but there is this opening, I feel. Like when something's satisfied, it's like, okay, I'm satisfied. Now I can take my energy and plug it into something else. Whereas if it's not, I feel like I'm kind of chasing my own tail in this place where there isn't much growth or expansion happening.
So what does your body tell you when you feel like there's something missing?
What does my body say?
Yeah.
I feel stagnant. It feels like the energy's not moving. It feels like I'm blocked. Something's wrong. It's
Yep.
definitely something like something's wrong. So I feel like that might be the first step to identifying that there's a need, right? Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you. What is your first like step to identifying that there's a need not being met? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So first, like, let's talk about like what are some needs, right? Like need for connection, need for belonging, need for safety, need for intimacy, need for respect, emotional connection, acknowledgement, to be seen, to be understood, to be heard, right? Like the list really goes on and on and on. And you can look up needs inventory. Actually, I'll just dump it in the comments right here.
Yeah.
So a needs inventory, which was developed by nonviolent communication, is a good place to start to figure out like what is a need. You can actually just like look at a list of needs. And the thing about needs that is kind of cool is that I can't tell you that what you need isn't valid. Just like you can't tell me that my needs aren't valid because they're personal to me and they change throughout life. So, number one is like, okay, understanding like what is a need and why is it important. Number two is figuring out, okay, which ones are applicable to me in which
Mm,
situation. And what's interesting about needs is that they change through life, throughout your life, they change. And they also change in relation to other people. So I remember being in a relationship with someone where there wasn't a lot of security and safety in the relationship. And so when she flaked or was late, I felt a lot of anxiety. I felt disappointed. I felt angry. I felt sad. I felt a lot of unpleasant emotions.
mm,
And then fast forward to a relationship in which I feel a lot of safety and commitment and engagement. If my partner is late by 10 or 15 minutes, I really don't care. I could care less. I've got other things going on. I don't feel threatened. Someone being late doesn't threaten the safety of my relationship, right?
mm.
So that's an example of how needs can shift based on who you're with, what relationship you're with, whether it's with your family or at work or in your relationship. So number one, figure out what are these needs. Number two, which ones are applicable to me in this situation. Number three, what does it feel like in the body, right? You said stuck.
Mhm.
You said no movement, like blockage. You said, I forget what the other thing is, but for me, it comes up in anxiety. If I feel anxious, it's because there's either a need being threatened or a need that's not being responded to or met that leads to me feeling anxious, right? So my body is actually telling me all of the information that I really need. The issue becomes decoding that information.
Yes, and that's what you teach, right?
I
In
mean,
your
that's what I try to teach. It's really independent. It depends on the person. It depends on how in tune they are with their body, and also can they make a parallel with what I'm feeling or what they're feeling and what's happening in their life, right? Oftentimes, when I feel depressed or sad or lonely, my first instinct is to soothe that with whatever feels comforting, right? So food,
Mm,
sometimes it's, not personally, but drugs or alcohol, so tobacco, caffeine, exercise, binge watching Netflix. We go for things that make us feel good because we don't
mm,
like to feel unpleasant feelings. No one really likes to feel stressed out or depressed or sad or lonely or anxious.
mm.
But if we can pause and explore what is the story behind this anxiety? What could possibly be causing this anxiety?
Right.
Before we reach for the comforting, we explore.
Yes, because then, see, this is the thing about getting our needs met that I feel that might be skipped over. It's like, oh, I have a need. I'm going to ask the person who could give me the need to give it to me. But in the middle, for me, there's this whole journey that I've been on about taking responsibility for how I feel, and also like going into that vulnerable place of like, this is how I feel, how, and also, can I give it to myself before I make a request?
Beautiful.
Is that something that you go in the program? Is that something that you touch upon more like closer to emotional processing, or is it more in the request?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's beautiful to be able to pause and to explore and to evaluate, is this a need that I could meet myself? Or is this need something that only one specific person can meet? And if it's something that you can meet yourself, then great, you can go and try that. Sometimes the need is something that can be answered by multiple people, by not just the person that you want. So if we're talking about romantic relationships, oftentimes we'll turn to our partner as the person who's going to meet that need. And unfortunately, it's not your partner's job to meet all of your needs. That's a full-time job, and it's your job. It's your job to meet all those needs. And meeting those needs might look like asking others, right? Making a request for some of those needs to be met, but you can't put that request on just one person, right? So in a relationship where you are lacking touch, where you feel like you need more touch, the easy way is to maybe ask your partner for more touch, but they might not always be available to give it to you. So how can you find ways of receiving more touch in your life? And if we weren't in a coronavirus pandemic, it might be a little bit easier by doing acro yoga, jujitsu classes, getting a massage every week, inviting friends over
Cozy.
for platonic massage. Yeah, cuddle parties, right? There's all these different ways in which a need for touch would be met that's outside of just looking at your primary partner. So I think that's where looking outside the box for getting your needs met really comes in handy, and also lessens the pressure that your one relationship might feel if you're constantly going to them with requests for more needs to be met.
What happens if someone is not able to identify, like they know something's wrong, but they don't know what the need is? Like that's happened to me before where I'm like, something doesn't feel right. I can't put my finger on it, and there's a need behind it. Like, is there an approach that you have, or what do you like when somebody says, "Yeah, I don't know what my need is." Like, what? Yeah, is there anything that
Well,
you
what did you do?
suggest? What do I do?
Yeah, what have you done in the past where you had a feeling something was wrong, but you couldn't really put your finger on it, and then you eventually figured it out?
That's such a great question. I love how you brought. This is great. I believe that the body has all the information. I believe that it's through the emotional body, because to me, emotions are energy in motion. So if I allow myself, without putting judgment or story on what I'm feeling, if I allow myself to have those feelings, however, I have a way I go about it, then insight information arises because I put away the story and I allow myself to experience what it was that was kind of blocking me from having that connection with myself.
Yeah, great.
So that's how yeah.
So
Yes.
tuning into what your body's saying. Meditation is another great way, right? Like sitting still, quieting the mind, trying to see what insights bubble up, like you said. Personally, I'm someone who processes a lot through talking. So I'll call my friends and I'll talk to them, and eventually, if I talk about it enough, something will come up and it'll make more sense. So sometimes I have a need to process with other people, and I call my friends, and if they don't answer, I don't get upset. Like, so there's a list, right? I have a list of the people that I want to talk to, and there's always like the first person, right? You pick up your phone and you're like, this is the person I want to talk to. So I have a need to talk to this person about whatever I'm going through. I'll call them. They won't answer. I won't get upset and then berate them for not answering my need. I will go down the list and call somebody else. Right. So I call that spreading the load of your needs. And someone said, oh, isn't it great that you're now in an industry where you can actually say, spread the load, uh, like without it being a joke? That's what I do. I share my needs with other people. I make requests from different people. So I'll go down the line until someone answers, and then I'll process with them. And oftentimes talking about it is how I'll get some insight on what the need is. More concretely, uh, if you take a course on needs, or if you do an inventory on needs, you'll start to get more awareness around what are needs that people have.
Yes.
And then maybe draw parallels to your life. And then you could literally just have a note on your phone: when I feel this, I need this. Or one of
Mm.
the needs that I might have is this. Literally, like, start taking notes about
Mhm.
what needs you might have. And then lastly, it's okay to talk about how you're feeling without knowing what you need. So that might look like saying, "Hey, I'm having some feelings come up around something that makes me uncomfortable. I don't really know what I need, but in the short term, I'd love to just talk about it. Is that something that you're available for?" Right?
Mm.
Even in the short term, the need might be to talk about what's going on so that you can identify the underlying need.
Yeah, so you can untangle it. I see. I like it. What I'm hearing is that, different people have different approaches to identifying their needs. It could be like you mentioned talking to friends. I was like, oh, like sometimes I write. I just write, 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 write. I use the mirror. Sometimes I look at myself and I talk, like as if I had a friend, but it's me. And I also hear that having like taking a course, you discover more about yourself. And when you discover more, then yeah, it becomes a quicker link to, wait a minute, this is what I'm feeling. And therefore, I might need this, or this. And yeah, I like that. I like feeling like there's many possibilities to arriving to the same place because we're all different. And like you said, we all have different needs, so different ways of going about it too.
Absolutely. And different ways of making requests for those needs as well.
Yeah, so then there's the whole part of like, okay, so now I've identified my need. How do I make requests? And I mean, depending on if it's a lover, if it's someone, an authority, if it's, a friend, a family member, like just it all varies. And so in the course, you talk about like more concrete approaches to these, like to making these requests.
Yeah, we break it down 6 ways from Sunday. Is that an expression? I think
Yeah, I think that's what the expression is.
it's
Yeah.
6 or 7. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, one of the things about asking for your needs met, I guess I'd like to ask you, like, what is a need that you have in one of your relationships that isn't currently being met? Doesn't have to be anything super personal, but like just pick one.
Sure. I thought
We'll
about that.
workshop it together.
Okay. Well, I thought about that. I was like, okay, I want to give an example, but I'm having my need is actually something that I don't feel like I could. It's not about a person, it's more a need to have this flow in my life in terms of my career. Having this, like, this feeling of, giving out energy and then receiving the energy and this constant flow. That's the need that I have. And I'm like, how do I get that met?
Yeah.
I'm really asking myself that. Because in terms of my relationship, we have great communication. So I feel like whenever something arises, even if it's not clear, I can approach him and divulge whatever it is that's going on for me, and we'll pick it apart and get to the crux. And my friends too, like I really feel. So yeah, so that's a need that I have right now. Is yeah, I know I'm feeling kind of stuck on that as well.
You need
But
reciprocity from your audience and your clients.
yeah, how do I get that?
So this is a great example of like a need that might not be met by a person or a group,
Yeah.
right? And so I guess I'm kind of curious, like, what would that need bring you?
Oh, a sense of security. There's a sense like I feel secure because I feel like where I'm putting my energy is coming back. So it's not like going empty nowhere. And also a sense of feeling purposeful and fulfilled.
So the question is, how can you find or get your need met for purpose and security outside of your work?
Mm. Mm.
That's
Wow.
another way to look at this, right? Like your need for reciprocity and actually for reciprocity, security, and fulfillment in the workspace can actually be met from other areas in your life. And your work life for now is a place where you willingly put more energy in than you get back, because you're getting back more energy than you put in other areas of your life, or other areas are helping you feel secure and purposeful, so that you know that you don't actually need professional reciprocity for you to feel like you're living a purposeful life.
Oh, that is a good one. Yeah, because my need was met in other areas of my life before COVID. I had community. I had, where I danced and where I did acro yoga, all these things I did. Yeah. So there were these places where I could show up in my light and in my fire, and I felt like it impacted people positively, and then I would get that immediately back. And so my work has become that place, and I like this. So I will reflect on where is it that I could get that energy back, and then, or not back, but just, a place where that energy is fulfilled and received, and that, I
But
could possibly.
this is a perfect example of what happens when your needs, when someone can't or won't meet your needs, right? So if we're looking at actually just your business as an entity that cannot or will not meet your needs for whatever reason, you have options, right? So your business is an entity that right now currently can't meet your needs. Does that mean you'd break up with the business? Not necessarily. That's what a lot of people think. They go, okay, well, my boyfriend is unwilling to see me more than I want him to. And that means fuck him. It's over. Okay, well, now
Mhm,
you've got no
mhm,
boyfriend and no one's seeing you at all, which I'm not saying don't break up if your needs aren't being met. That's one option, right? Of course, leaving is always an option, and you continue, like, ceasing to do business in this way is an option, right? Or ceasing to engage in this way is an option. But you also have other options, right? You can find other ways of getting your needs met, which is what we just talked about, right? How can I get my needs met in other ways? And then the third option that you have is to accept the fact that for now, your needs will not be met.
mm,
And this is a totally empowering position. This is not settling. I'm not
mm,
settling for a business that doesn't give me energy. I'm not settling for a boyfriend that refuses to spend more time with me, or to touch me more, or to give me more space, whatever the example is. I'm making a conscious decision to stay despite the fact that these needs aren't being met. I'm compromising. I'm not
mm,
settling. I'm making an informed, conscious decision, an empowered choice to stay for now until I reevaluate how important this is. Because let's be honest, we get other needs met through relationships or work or whatever that also satisfy us. To a certain degree, the work that you do satisfies you, but there are parts of it that aren't satisfying. And a lot of
exactly.
relationships satisfy us to a certain degree, and there are bits that aren't satisfying. And
Mm,
so sometimes we make a compromise. We make a decision to stay despite the fact that all my needs aren't being met in this relationship. And it bears repeating, it's really hard to find a relationship or a situation where your needs are always met.
yeah.
You make a choice. Do I stay or do I go? Do I continue, or do I go? Do I change? Do I change the way I look at this? Do I change the kind of energy that I put into my business, my relationship? Do I change my expectations of my partner, or what I expect from my audience or from my clients? Right? Do I change my expectations so that they meet the reality? So you have a lot of options when your needs aren't being met, other than just leaving. And sometimes leaving is the right decision. Sometimes you're working so hard at your business, it's not working, that something has to change, and at which case you can make that decision at that point.
Mm, I like that. It really brings back the power. What you suggest is really like, it takes away this whole, victim, or, I have no control, or that this place that shows up in me, that I'm like, oh, wait, if I re-choose, recommit, but knowingly that this is not where I'm going to get this particular need met, but I get my creativity met, I get my, a lot of other needs met in my career, in my business. So yeah, I like that. I feel empowered. I feel empowered in moving forward. Thanks,
Sweet.
Shaun. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about needs with me. I feel transformed. It's so good.
And we didn't even talk about how to ask for needs. I guess I'll leave that for people who want to join my course. But one thing that I will say is that, make your needs easy to meet, as in, this is sort of just an invitation. Instead of asking for more effort from your partner, what can they do to show you that they're making more effort? Right? So take the need and break it down into action items. What are the things, like, set your people up for success, not failure? Because if I say, hey, Mel, I really need more effort from you, like, it's over. Yeah. Like, you're going to get defensive. You're going to start crying. I'm going to be upset because you're not meeting my needs for more effort. Rather than if I said something like, hey, Mel, it'd be great if, a couple nights a week you also did the dishes, especially when I cook. That makes me feel, like, cared for. It's just a small example of what that looks like.
I love it. Thank you, Shaun. Yes, and definitely the course seems like a place to really discover and décortiquer. What's that in English? I guess take apart, dismantle, all this space inside of us that might be a little jibble jabbled, and to make it clear, and then know how to make requests. And I experienced some of it at the Woodland Festival and just was like, boom. Like, Morgan and I were just like, wow, this is really simple and efficient and just so good. So yeah, I suggest for everyone to sign up, give it a go. Thanks, Shaun. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I'll share a couple blog posts with you. If people don't or can't sign up for the course, then they can just read a blog post that can give some tools on how to ask.
Yeah, in the comments. Great. Yes, definitely. Do that. Well, thank you so much. Have a great one.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to put all of Shaun's links, so to his Facebook, to his website, and to Instagram. And the course is also on the Facebook. He'll probably put the link in the comments for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share this with a friend if you feel like they'll get something out of it. I mean, I got so much out of it already. I was really sincerely thinking, like, what am I going to bring so that Shaun can help me through, can guide me through? And look at that. Like, it was so almost abstract, and he was able to have me break it down, get clarity, and be re-empowered. But that, for me, is one of my pillars, is to feel empowered. So yeah, I'm really grateful for this conversation. So please share if you're also inspired. Have a great day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next Inner Fire interview, where I interview people who light up the world. Have a great day. Mwah.